All right, so today I want to start by talking more about we, and this is a tweet from Michael Barrett saying Liberal MP at Greg Fergus has confirmed that the cover-up will continue at committees. There must be something in these documents that I want Canadians to see. Now, again, are the Liberals trying to cover up the whole we thing? I would say, how stupid can you possibly be to suggest that they're not trying to cover something up? Like, seriously, like, I don't know. And here's, I mean, I guess you can just make the argument if all people are just trying to be blatantly hypocritical, and that they know the we thing is a big story, but they don't want it coming out because it makes the liberals look bad. But here's the thing. I've said a lot before. I don't think there's a whole lot that could happen that would get people to change their mind on the liberals, and by them I mean the liberal supporters, because they've already demonstrated very, very clearly that the scandals before this one isn't enough. They've already demonstrated very clearly that blackface isn't enough. And not to mention, too, Trudeau's polling still ahead of the Conservatives, at least, I mean, if you trust the polls. Um, so again, like there's not a whole lot I think they could do that's going to get people to change their minds. Now, why is that? Well, it's because the left is incredibly tribal, like incredibly tribal. The right is tribal to some degree, but the left is undoubtedly more tribal. Now, why is that? I think it's just a basic psychology behind the collectivist mentality and the individualistic mentality. And that has many drawbacks and advantages, but the main advantage being, I think, is that, and I think the reason why the left, it's more beneficial, at least if you're all you're worried about is power, morally and ethically, I think it's way worse to be in the collectivist side. But as far as power is concerned, it's way better to be in the collectivist mindset because to ignore any scandals, any wrongdoing, any double standards, anything, any possible wrongdoing, they're willing to ignore it because in the end, all they're worried about is power. In the end, all the average liberal voter is worried about is free stuff. You know, does my union get to get as much or more power? Is the government going to be expanded? That's all they care about. In the end, that's all they care about. Um, and notice I never said at what point do they care about is the economy actually growing? Is unemployment actually going down or staying low? Is poverty actually going down or at the very least staying the same? They don't care about any of that kind of stuff because when it comes to the average leftist voter, the emotional aspect is far more, um, you know, telling than the actual reality, right? This is the reason why these people always support free healthcare and welfare and all this kind of stuff. They don't care about the end result. They just care about the emotional aspect of it. Oh, we're going to help the poor people by giving them free stuff. But like I always say, it's the same thing as thinking you're helping the crackhead by giving them free crack. It doesn't. It helps them in the here and now, in that they get their drug sickness is gone. They get to get that dopamine back, but in the end, it doesn't help. They're still addicted to it. And just giving poor people free stuff doesn't help because in the end, the reason why a lot of people are poor is usually one of two things. I mean, mental illness, and again, if someone's poor due to mental illness or um, very low intelligence, I mean, which I think are the main two. Um, there's almost nothing you can do to fix their problems because if you give them money, all they're going to do is spend it on stupid stuff, right? Like how many of these poor people on welfare do you see investing money, even if it's a small amount? Hardly any, right? If any. I mean, there's probably some, but how many people? No, what they do is they spend money on stupid stuff. So again, I know it's a bit of a tangent, but um, I wanted to kind of get into the aspects of I'm not sure what exactly the liberals' thinking on this is. I think that it's just them not wanting to appear even weaker than they already are. Because if they admit they're wrong on the whole we thing, that's going to make them look even weaker than they already are. And not to mention, too, I think that's going to make the NDP look really bad for. I mean, they already look really bad for supporting them, but that's going to make them look even worse. And the liberals know that they need the NDP to keep going, basically, because if the NDP stopped supporting them, it would probably force an election. Now, like I say too, I still think they'd win the election, But I think that the liberals are worried that they would still come out of it with a minority, which is what I think would happen. So I think that's what their thought process is when it comes to that. But nonetheless, that's what I wanted to talk about first here. The next thing I wanted to bring up is from Justin Trudeau here. He says, our generation is at a crossroads, but if we pull together, we can give everyone a real and fair chance to succeed, lay the foundations of a better world, and end poverty for good. My statement on the International Day for Eradicating Poverty, you can go check it out again, but I'm not going to talk about it more. Um, and the reason I wanted to talk about this is that it's very telling in that, exactly like I brought up too, is that the left's way of ending poverty is just to give people free stuff, which doesn't actually fix the problem. In the end, it only makes it worse because when you give people free stuff, all it does is get people hooked on the free stuff. The next generation sees that, and you get more and more and more people hooked on the free stuff, and then you get to the point to where not enough people are able to be taxed to pay for said free stuff, and then the government has to just print massive amounts of money, and eventually the whole thing goes belly up. Now, again, there's a lot more to it, but in a nutshell, that's what happens. Um, and here's the thing, like this government has had, going on 5, 6 years now, and what have they done that's helped the whole heck of a lot? Like, what have they done? Now, again, people are going to blame, oh, it's because of the pandemic that there's massive unemployment and poverty right now. But that's not necessarily, no, it's definitely responsible for some of it. But if you look at Canada's growth rates, we had pretty much zero growth going into this whole pandemic thing. So we are going to be recovering out of this situation into a recession. We're not going to be recovering out of this into a normal economy. And this is just another reason why we need to get the economy going again, is because people think that, again, there's still so many people that still think that it's a light switch and that you can flip it on and off at will, but that's not how it works. There's so much more stuff that goes into it, and the more you try and tap it out, the worse things are going to get. And that's pretty much what this government has committed to doing, right? That's pretty much what they've committed to doing. So I don't know exactly what he said. I'm not even going to read it like I say to. But the liberals, and again, the left's way of ending poverty is free stuff, right? It's always been free stuff. It probably always will be until people wake up to their garbage. But like I say, what needs to be happen to? I mean, what should it actually look like? Like if Justin Trudeau were to put out a statement that would actually be telling, what would he be saying? Well, number one, he'd be saying we need to start growing again. We need to start growing. We need to cut regulations. We probably need to cut taxes, which I mean I don't think you can do that right now given the debt, but at some point you're gonna have to cut taxes. Corporate taxes probably as well, but again I think that's a provincial thing. But nonetheless, that's something that they could suggest. And I mean, here's the thing when it comes to corporate taxes too, is you have the left who think that by cutting corporate taxes, all you're doing is helping the big evil rich, Mr. Burns kind of guy. That's not how it works. That's not how it works because if you look at the value of a company, what goes into the value of a company, specifically the stock? Well, what goes into it is its projected future earnings after, expenses, right? And, expenses, taxes, all that kind of stuff. Now, if you raise taxes on them, all that does is reduces the value of these companies, which is going to hurt everybody who has money invested in the market, right? So this idea that raising corporate taxes, it only hurts the big evil rich executives and CEOs, it's not the case. It hurts everyone, right? Now here's the thing. A lot of these low income, welfare people, they don't got money in the market, right? So does it help them? Yeah, but it hurts the middle class. And this is the one thing that I really can't stand about the left is that they frame their high taxes, high regulations, though it only hurts the rich, right? Like it only hurts the rich. But the reality is that it hurts the middle class just as much. And that's why whenever you see these leftist governments, what always happens is that their ideas are all framed around we're going to close the gap between the rich and the poor, and what they really do is that they close the gap between the middle class and the lower class because there's always going to be rich. I mean, you look at the socialist countries. Did they not have rich people? Of course they do. Of course they do. Anybody connected to the government's usually rich, especially at the higher levels, right? So this idea that that they're gonna, now again, that's not something Justin Trudeau pushes a lot, but if you look at the NDP supporters, this is one of the main things they're worried about is, oh, well, Jason Kenney and the Conservatives, they cut corporate taxes so they could help out their corporate buddies. No, that's complete bunk. It's complete bunk. So anyway, like I say, my guess is that the liberal strategy is just free stuff. It's more and more free stuff, and it's not going to work. And they're because and here's the reason too is that they know in the back of their head that it's not going to work all that good. But it's also the idea of government in that one of the things that government likes doing is creating problems, or at the very least allowing problems to fester, having a solution to said problems that they know the majority of the public isn't going to agree with at the time, but if they can allow said problems to continue to fester and fester and fester, eventually the public will support it. Now, that's how the UBI is probably going to get put in, is that they're just going to allow massive unemployment to go on through policies that they implemented, right? Because if the government hadn't have gotten in the way, there wouldn't be massive unemployment right now. There isn't massive unemployment because of the whole virus thing. There's massive unemployment because the government massively overreacted to this situation. So again, that's probably what's going to happen. Now again, like I say, the other things that they're going to do, like they're going to, rent control. They're going to do all the usual stuff that doesn't work, that only hurts the middle class and hurts businesses. That's what they're going to do. And because problems are going to keep festering and festering even more, the middle class gets hollowed out even more and more, people just beg the government for more free stuff. We need more rent control, we need more taxes, we need more regulation, right? And because they know that the average person's too stupid to figure out that they're being led astray, they're going to go right along with it. So anyway, the next thing to bring up here is from Hillel Neuer. Um, He's an international lawyer, human rights activist, writer, executive director at the UN Watch. He says today is Black Day for human rights. UN's newest world judges on human rights include Pakistan, China, Russia, and Cuba. Now, again, in case you've been living under a rock for most of your life, those countries all have very poor human rights records to, at the very least, very questionable human rights records. I mean, you got Pakistan persecutes Christians, Hindu, Ahmadis. Not to mention, too, women are treated as second-class citizens there. China is an authoritarian government. They got over 1 million people in, internment camps. Russia poisons dissidents. Now, again, I don't know if that was definitively proven or not, but that it was the government at the very least. But nonetheless, Russia definitely has a lot of questionable things going on there. And same Cuba too. Cuba's a pretty corrupt government as well. And this is the problem. Like when it comes to the UN. Now, again, I've brought this up 1 million times when it comes to the UN, so it's probably nothing new that most people have heard. But why in the world are we funding the UN? I mean, this is just another way that you can tell if a government is, or a potential government is trustworthy or not. And this is another thing when it comes to Aaron O'Toole, too. Another reason why I don't trust the Conservatives is that one of their main policy positions should be stop giving money to the UN and the WHO. And now again, the WHO and the UN are linked, but nonetheless, that should be a policy position, but it isn't. And again, that's a lot of money. We're giving hundreds of millions, maybe even billions of dollars every year to them. Why in the world would we not keep that money and reinvest it in Canada? It doesn't make any sense. Like, what benefit is the UN providing to Canada? Like, seriously, like, if you talk to the average voter, I don't think that they would can come up with anything. Now, they'll come up with the platitudes of, oh, they're United Nations, they're keeping the peace, or promoting globalism, or whatever garbage platitudes they bring up. But you can't bring up anything definitive that they do. Like, seriously, what definitive thing do they do that helps Canada? I don't know. I can't think of anything. I've never heard anyone bring up anything. So yeah, they should absolutely be defunded, and we should be keeping all of that money for ourselves. I mean, we could put it towards paying down the debt, we could put it towards helping the poor. Again, Justin Trudeau's all worried about ending poverty, but he gives hundreds of millions of dollars every year to the UN. Like, come on, you don't care about the poor. And here's the thing, the UN may have once had, good intentions, again, that's another thing people may point out, but good intentions don't matter. If you have these countries running things when it comes to the human rights aspect of it, this is literally like having the inmates running the asylum. This is literally like having a serial killer, as the district attorney or a judge or something like that. Like this is that those levels of insanity. This is like having a serial killer as prime minister or some crazy stuff like that. But again, the UN does it with these countries and nobody questions it. At the very least, nobody in the mainstream. So again, it's very insane to say the least that this stuff is going on. But again, like I say, the Canadians are so ignorant and um, brainwashed that I don't think a whole lot's going to change. Like again, like it boggles my mind how you can have these leftists complain about the gap between the rich and the poor need more this, they need more that, but yet they turn around and defend all the money that's given to the UN. Like how can you possibly do that? Like it's just pure insanity. So anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about today. So if you liked the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe. If you haven't already, make sure you follow me on Twitter, especially, but also BitChute and Parler. Again, like I say, people always ask, what can you do to make a change? And the easy answer is you got to support people that are speaking the truth. So again, like I say, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, share, do all that kind of stuff. And again, not just with me too, do it with other people. But anyway, like I say, yeah, all those links are in the description, so you can find them all there.